Shit.
Did you hear that sound?
Yeah, it sounded like a fart. Hold on. I can't. It's humid here in Chicago. Do we have a grippy? That was really anticlimactic. Worth it.
Julie,
Yeah.
I think a lot of your skills as a healer. But that was a shitty pour.
Man, also opening that was not awesome.
Speaking of skills as a healer, I was watching season 1, episode 3 of Outlander, The Way Out. Mm-hmm. And you know what I learned that we needed? You know what we were missing?
What?
White willow bark. You want to know why?
Why?
Because it's good for a whiskey headache.
Ugh.
Do you think it's fair to assume that if we had the last, well, we'll say 2 weeks, quote unquote, but we all know it was 2 weeks ago. Oh, a week ago.
1 week.
I don't even know.
It's been,
the chronology
just
is fucked.
happened.
Just like on Outlander, the chronology is fucked. If we had white willow bark, would we have been in better shape?
Man, I don't know. We were fucking wrecked.
I'm pretty sure that I think we would not have.
No.
I'm pretty sure that we would have been fucked. Apologies to Geillis Duncan if we had all the white willow bark in the world.
Yeah, we were really hungover, you guys. And I know we talked about it a lot. But you know what? We're not today. You know what? It's a better way. It's a better way to record a podcast is not to be hammered doo-dooed.
You know, Julie, I think it's not so much that it's a better way to record a podcast as it is a better way to live.
You make your choices and I'll make mine.
No, but you don't actually disagree with me.
No, I know.
You just wanted like a sick line there.
I'm kidding. It was right there.
Was
I can't say no when the muse visits.
God, you are giving me such a headache that I need some white willow bark. Nailed it! And with the end of that attempted bit, hi, I'm Allison Shoemaker.
I'm Julie Starbird.
And that's Janine.
Hey.
And this is Podlander Drunkcast, an Outlander podcast. We are continuing our season 1 rewatch and talking about episode 3 of season 1, The Way Out. Mm-hmm. And if you thought that The Way Out was that Claire just gets the fuck out and goes back to the Dick Rocks, you were wrong.
Sadly mistaken.
Very sadly mistaken. Instead, it's her strategy seems to be to make herself way more valuable to them.
I know. It's like she ingratiates themselves into their lives, and then instead of doing what I would call the nail method, which is doing the things that are asked of you, but doing them not 100% great.
She said of her husband.
Yeah, she does them 105% great. So it's like, why would they ever have you leave? Why didn't you say, yes, I'll be your healer, and then be a shitty healer? Like everybody got diarrhea at once. You know what I'm saying?
Well, she does give that advice from Mrs. Fitz, and we'll talk about that because it's maybe my favorite scene in the whole episode. So we'll get there. But
it did open on all of her incredible herbs and potions.
Oh yeah, your little one shot teaser, blah de blah.
Right, and this time it was the first time in season 1 rewatch that I have realized that that's there. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. So it opens up on all these cool old bottles with herbs and bullshit in them, and I'm like, all that's missing is Stevie Nicks.
Now here Claire goes again. You say she's lost her freedom. I didn't even know that was going to happen. Well, who are we to bring her down?
The muse is really with us today.
Man, I don't know. I'm
Well,
feeling
Stevie Nicks. She floats around in the ether. Hey, fans at home. True, all 6 of you. True story. Julie hates Stevie Nicks so much that if you really want to fuck with her, find her on the internet and send her a clip of Landslide.
Gross.
Because here's the thing, Julie loves Landslide, but it will wreck her. So you could just send her Go Your Own Way, and that'll piss her off. But if you really want to destroy Julie, she resents the fact that she loves Landslide.
It's true.
So she will resent it and sob all at once.
It's a fucking good song, but I fucking hate her.
She's been afraid of changing. But she built her life around Landslide.
Oh, God.
Anyway, Patty. So we're going to talk about The Way Out. But first, we want to give a little hey to our Patreon supporters. We've had a couple of new ones. We'll touch on those names at the end. But thanks to everybody who's backing us. You're making our lives way easier. So now when we go to buy the beer from breweries that are not sponsoring us, we're spending our own money that is our own money as opposed to our own money that we're wait. Well, we're spending our own money on the beer. However, we're not also spending our own money on site hosting and distribution and shit like that. So now we're just buying alcohol instead of alcohol and all of the expensive, fancy, technical shit. So thank you very, very, very much. It makes the beer taste better, doesn't it?
Yeah,
guys,
it does.
Guys,
cheers.
Ready? Cheers. And you know, Julie and I did that
delicious.
so in unison that I'm pretty sure that listening at home you won't know that was two people.
That was two people.
That was both of us.
Two people's relief at beer.
Yeah, it was beer leaf.
Beer leaf.
I'm funnier when I'm hungover, you guys.
The music left us.
So it's because we disparaged Stevie Nicks.
It might not yet. Give us some time.
So The Way Out seems like it's maybe going to be a filler episode, and in some ways it is. They talk about the gathering so much that you can tell that like that's where the action's really going to start. And by the action, I mean I am ready for the action. Je suis prêt le action. Anyway.
Yeah.
But it's actually a really great episode, I think. There are a lot of interesting things that happen that come to play later in the season. We get a lot more of Geillis, who, as you know, is my favorite. If you can have a favorite, that's insane. Which you can.
You can. Gonzo's my favorite Muppet.
Yeah.
I mean,
but aren't all the Muppets insane?
I don't know. Gonzo in particular, I think, has a certain level.
Well, I mean, Animal. He literally has to be chained up.
Animal, yes, Animal, but like Gonzo carries Camilla around, and that's a little like, what's going on there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a little bit like the people who marry the Eiffel Tower.
Or the guy who married his own truck because he got a sweet paint job on it, and he's like, I just needed to have my last name. Yeah, so Geillis isn't that crazy. Well, you know what? She's worse.
Yeah. Spoilers. We'll get to the spoiler section
Okay.
later. But we start this episode that's mostly Claire and company. Like, it's Claire and various companions in the 18th century. In the 20th century.
Yeah, and it's her and Frank on the train platform getting ready for Claire to go to the front lines of World War II. And Frank is not happy about it.
He's not happy about it. And you can tell that they're sort of at the end of a long-standing argument where he wants to pull some strings because he's a white cisgendered man. Mm-hmm. That allows him to make it so she doesn't have to go to the front. She's like, no, we may as well all give up and start speaking German. Ooh, did I say German? I mean Prussian.
That comes later. I mean, Prussia.
And she's basically like not having it. She says that, you know, it's not going to do her any good to be back in London because her husband's not going to be there, so she may as well be making a difference. And
she
they
gets
have
on
a
the
very
train.
Sweet moment and like a pretty good little kiss on the train.
There's a great picture on IMDb of that moment. I'm like looking at it right now going, oh man.
Yeah.
They had a nice little kiss there. And then she gets on the train and blows home in limbo. She's out.
Yeah.
Going to the front lines. And Frank is staying in London to work in intelligence.
And withstanding interrogation, which, step one, don't get hammered and forget every fucking thing that your husband told you about withstanding interrogation. Anyway.
Right, remember that.
And then all of a sudden, like, just like somebody dumped a bucket of cold water over our head, we see Claire getting a bucket of cold water dumped over her head. And we are back in the 18th century with one of my favorite characters in the series, Mrs. Fitz.
Mm-hmm. And she's getting Claire scrubbed, clean, and ready. And Claire seems kind of out of it. And Mrs. Fitzgibbons is asking her questions, and Claire's like, can I be honest with you? And then she lays it on the line. And then Miss Fitzgibbons freaks out.
It's actually, like, really well acted, and Claire is explaining that, like, her husband's not dead, he just hasn't been born. and no one is going to believe her. And can she tell the truth to the Mackenzies? She doesn't even know she can go back through the stones. And Mrs. Fitz, at first you think she's going to be understanding, and then all of a sudden she's not. I see ye now for what ye are. You're there of face and none of tongue. And then she slaps her right across the damn face.
Because she's obviously a witch.
Yeah. You're a witch!
Ah, the good old days.
And then, Julie, what was it? What was the scene?
What was the scene? I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean.
It wasn't real.
It wasn't real. No, it was fake. Because then Claire just sits there and she's back in the mirror and she's like, well, I obviously can't do that.
Yep.
So it didn't actually happen that way. That was just Claire fantasizing
it was a
about.
sweet fantasy, baby. When I close my eyes.
So she's just in the mirror, like letting Mrs. Fitzgibbons comb her hair or whatever, just thinking about what it would have been like if she's like, I'm from the future, and Mrs. Fitzgibbons slapped her across the face. But that didn't happen.
Yeah. Instead, Mrs. Fitz gives her some great advice and is like, listen, the gathering happens once every couple decades. It's
Seriously,
a big
though.
deal
That's a
if
big party.
you can make yourself valuable to the Mackenzies. They are going to be more likely to do what you want. So please prove your worth. Just like, go for it. That's going to be good. Which seems like good advice until you forget that she has no power.
Yeah, and she, as long as she's being good at something or doing something that proves her worth, they're just going to want to hold on to her
Like
for longer.
her best bet would probably be to convince them that she is both rich and stupid.
Yeah, just
So
act dumb.
she would be a financial drain. She'd be drinking all that Rhenish wine and eating like every stuffed duck liver
You know
she
what?
could or some shit.
She drinks a lot of that Rhenish even still.
She does. But then she's like constantly healing bones and giving butt massages. We'll get
Oh,
there.
yeah, we're getting to the butt rub.
And oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't
Oh,
worry.
yeah.
It's coming up.
It's a nice butt.
It is.
Better than you'd think.
Yeah, definitely better than you'd think.
Anyway, so then she has to continue to go about her day, live her life, do her thing.
So she's going through all of her herbs and stuff that were left by, what was the
Beaton.
Beaton, the guy
Beaton.
that died, that was obviously a shitty healer.
And she's listing some of the ingredients they have, and there's like ant eggs that turn into real ants.
And then
Who
there's
knew?
like horse dung
And
for
powdered
headaches.
human
It says
skull.
for headaches on there, and I'm like, horse tongue for headaches. Psh, everyone knows you take frog's tongue.
God, I really could have used some frog's tongue last
Sunday.
episode.
So she's surrounded by a whole bunch of ridiculous shit she doesn't need, but she also says there is some good stuff there. But she's trying to catalog all of her herbs and potions and everything, and the guy was obviously a fucking quack.
But still had some good shit. Mm-hmm. So she's trying to find that good shit, and into her doing her best to make herself valuable. In comes, I don't know, Rupert.
Angus
Angus
is on Claire duty now.
Rugus comes in and it's like, hey, himself would like to see you. And so then she has to go and see the Mackenzie, to see Colin, to see King Ricketts, Gary Lewis. And she goes up there and he hasn't finished his last meeting.
with his tailor, who looks like he knows what he's doing, and obviously does, because he came all the way from Edinburgh. But he made a tactical error in that
He would have been crucified on Twitter for this.
he made a coat for Colin,
A frock coat.
a frock coat that was longer than your average frock coat.
What I wrote down when I got to that point is that if you say longer than your average frock coat, I assume he's wearing one of those useless 90s floor duster cardigans, like in The Craft.
Mm-hmm.
So then I immediately pictured Colin in like a crocheted floor length black cardigan and a choker.
Well, I mean, you can't have one without the other.
Yeah. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. Light as a feather, stiff as a board.
Floor-length cardigans, they're like a blanket.
It
Well,
is.
They call that a snuggie.
Yeah, snuggie. Just go straight snuggie, man. Why even try to pretend?
You can't. Here's the thing. We live in Chicago. If you wear a floor-length cardigan in Chicago, what you're asking for is a handful of mud.
Yeah, a handful of black snow.
This is what coats are for.
Black snow. Anyway, so guess who's pissed about long frock coat? Call him. And guess why? Because he's like, are you trying to say there's something wrong with my legs?
Oh, Julie
It's like,
stepped up her Scottish accent this week.
I was thinking about Fat Bastard a little bit. So Colin really, like, literally tells this guy he could kill him.
Oh, yeah. Threatens his fucking life.
Like, really? Okay. And you're going to fix my coat. And so the guy's like, yeah, okay, thank you, and leaves. And so Claire is treated to this entire moment of Colum.
Thank you, my laird. Thank you, my laird. My wife's people, thank you, my laird. I'll go make you a shorter coat than a laird. And then he goes home and just chops off 2 inches and reshows the hem, and everything's fine.
Right, but then he cries a little bit while he does it.
My laird. I thought it was going to be stylish, my laird. Ushering in a new trend.
Those legs are awful.
I brought you this choker too, my laird, and these platform Skechers, my laird.
Can you imagine King Ricketts walking in some platform Skechers? He'd just fall over.
And one of those wallets on a chain.
Oh, God. So Claire gets to see this shit.
So Janine just said, hey, I have one of those.
Like
that was going to be a point in the favor of the chain wallet. Like, I know you were a youngster in the 90s. Of course you had a fucking wallet on a chain.
And
did you play with Pogs, too?
And had Jinko jeans.
Yes, of course you
well,
did.
what guy that's relatively close to either my or Allison's age, hint, they're different, did not have that fucking chain wallet? Everybody I know had that. Everybody.
I didn't have one, but I am female.
Kind of a dude thing, though.
And a youngster.
And I did fucking rock the shit out of some motherfucking chokers, though. It's true. Brenna, I love you. But
I did not. It's because I have a husky man throat. I don't know if we talked about this last week, but we decided that we have Claire and Tara Dressbach by extension to blame for the choker resurgence, because Claire rocks a choker.
A lot. And actually, that comes up
oh, it sure
in
does.
the next episode.
Yep.
In a not so awesome manner, but we'll get there. So Claire has to hear Colum just be a true dirtbag to this poor Taylor, and then she's got to go talk to him because she's been summoned. So he's in a shitty mood, right?
A real shitty mood.
And she's got to be like, "Hi, so you wanted to see me? Please don't kill me." And then he talks about how. Did he talk about anything other than that he needed a rub?
No, he just needed a rub because
Yeah,
I don't know if you've noticed, but he's got some health problems.
His legs are a wee bit fucked up.
A wee bit.
And he talked about how the previous quack-ass healer, Britton or whatever his name was, would massage his legs and it would make him feel better. And Claire's like, well, actually.
She hesitates and he's like, do my legs disgust you? And then she remembers that the last time that he thought that his legs freaked somebody out, he threatened to kill them. So
No. They're actually really cool and beautiful in like a twisted tree kind of way. But what I'm saying is maybe I need to rub the base of your spine.
which is code for tuchus.
Yeah, so lift up your shaft.
Shaft.
And let me get my hands on your buns.
You know, when you're talking about a dude and you say shaft, it sounds like shaft, which makes it sound like a ball rub. So I want to be clear. It's your long shaft.
Just so we know, that's exactly where mine went.
Yeah.
Okay.
Long shirt.
Not shaft. Shaft.
Shaft and long shirt.
A long shaft.
I think you're right. But anyway, he hikes it right up, no question. And there's his kind of cute little ass.
It's a cute little butt. Gary Lewis or butt double. I mean, I shouldn't assume. It's a nice little butt.
And then Claire gets to rubbing. Butt rubbing.
Butt rub.
Yep.
Yep, it's great. Last night, eventually he'll probably be on the show, but last night Julie and I were at the Oasis, where we will eventually record this podcast. And it's going to be really funny. Celebrating a friend's birthday. And our friend Dennis, who's a massage therapist, showed up. And I was there with my fella, whose name is Tom. And he was like, I feel like I know that guy from somewhere. And I was like, yeah, Tom, that's Dennis. He's a massage therapist. And he went, oh, yeah, he's rubbed my butt.
It's not a thing you forget.
It was great. Anyway, Dennis Freimeyer, excellent massage therapist.
Actually,
if you're in Chicago, look him up.
It actually real.
Excellent, very affordable.
Amazing and incredibly affordable, especially if you're a performer or an artist.
And
As Jamie says in episode 1, you've a good touch.
And he loves quantum leaps.
And he loves Quantum Leap.
does-
Also, he is not sponsoring this. We're just saying we love Dennis.
And he also likes Outlander.
Oh, he does.
He and his wife are
watching right now.
So anyway, Dennis Freimeyer, you're the tits.
Yes, anyway.
So Claire gives him the butt rub, and then he asks her, will you be my guest tonight? Because I'm going to have
There's a musician coming in from out of town. Oh, my lady.
I've got Gordon Lightfoot.
I forgot to listen, Julie. I forgot to listen
It's
directly.
okay.
Edmund Fitzgerald.
I fucking went real Irish there. I'm not good at that.
Gordon Lightfoot.
But that doesn't come until later because it's not till the final song where he actually sounds like
Well,
it. But
I mean,
anyway.
we see him before then too. Anyway, point being, he is obviously trying to make her feel like less of a prisoner.
Right.
Because Colin McKenzie is like a badass and kind of a dick, but he's not a monster.
No. Well, I mean, unless you look at him.
Oh my God!
But he's a good leader, and he's very intelligent, and he knows what he wants, and he doesn't want to make her an enemy until he figures out that he has to make her an enemy.
So he says, please come to this dinner, and they have this musician who's very renowned in the Highlands.
And he plays a big harp.
And Claire goes in and sits down to listen to this
But first, she's standing there waiting to enter the room, and Gilf comes up behind her and is like, I hear you rubbed my brother's butt. The feral cat pulls in her claws, or some shit. He calls her a feral cat, and it's like,
Gilf, don't get me wrong, I would totally do you.
I would hit that, but please quit being a dick.
Yeah. So then she's all like pissed. And so one of our favorite things about Claire is also one of her biggest time traveler flaws, which is that she just doesn't take shit from anybody, which makes her a wonderful character and an admirable woman and a terrible time traveler.
Which is really bad.
That's a lot like Marty McFly, just so you can like.
Yeah, but he's a dude. It's different.
It is different.
Oh, you're very good point.
Yes.
Yeah. 'Cause
Especially
Also, he's
in like
got that vest.
1743.
Yeah.
completely right.
And he's got
Does
that
she
vest.
float? Do stones float? Does a duck float? Like that shit. Yeah. So she has this little exchange with Gilf and is like, fuck you. And then tries to find a place to sit. The only place open is next to Booger Eater Larry.
No, that's not actually what happens.
Well,
Julie.
you know,
she sits and Leary sits down next to her.
Oh,
and Leary sits and is like, I'm ignoring the Cessnack. I'm going to sit and listen to the music. Although, I have to admit, while we're trying to be as unspoiler as possible, there's just no way anyone listening to this can possibly miss that we're not the biggest Leary fans.
No, we already said that.
So, Leary. She parks her arse next to Claire, and Claire attempts to make friends.
She
Mostly because
tries.
she's tanked.
Yeah, and because she's drinking that
Radish. So she tries to talk to her and introduces herself, and Leary's reasonably friendly if standoffish. And then they start having this conversation about how Mr. McTavish cuts quite a fine figure. She's like, yes, but it's not me he fancies. And Claire gets it in her head that she's going to play matchmaker. And
She's just going to hook this up.
So Jamie comes over and sits down in between them, and Claire's like, I was just telling Leary how beautiful she is tonight. And she's beautiful. She's a beautiful girl. And Julie, come on.
No, of course she's.
When she's not eating her boogers.
When she's not eating her boogers for everyone to see.
And Claire keeps trying to make this happen. And if you've ever tried to hook up two people in your life, you know that every once in a while you're trying to make it happen, and one of them is just making it clear as day that they either are not interested or have no idea what's going on. And either way, that
Jamie, no fucks.
Whichever it is, he's just like, oh yeah, no, can I talk to you somewhere?
I think it's Claire. I think it's that he would rather a million times have a conversation with Claire than even look at Larry.
You're saying that he's ready to enter England?
What I'm saying is he's fucking at the gates already.
Okay.
And it's very clear. But Claire...
London Bridge is falling down.
Not soon enough. Claire's doesn't see that. She just sees that he's not interested in
Well, also, she
Leary.
is hammered.
Well, she is drinking that Rhenish.
Also, she does say, she mentions to Claire that sometimes men don't know what's good for them. So she clearly thinks like, oh, here's this young, handsome dude. I'm just going to make sure he makes a love connection with this woman he took a violent beating for. Mm-hmm. And they're listening to music for what, like 3 minutes? And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, my bandage itches. Can you change my bandage?
My bandage is wet. Like, I don't know how that happened. Can you change that for me? And it's like, Jamie.
Not subtle, bro.
You got to work on your game, man.
She's drunk enough that she's like, Oh, yeah, sure. Let's go.
Yeah, no problem. And then they go down to her little herb dungeon. And she's so hammered that she really cannot help but fucking touch him.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, and flirt with him. That's what I wrote down.
I called it
literally,
flirty McFlirt Tavish.
Literally cannot help flirting with him, but hell, who could?
I mean, you guys.
And he says that he wanted to make sure that he got her out of there before she was too drunk, which I want to remind you that exactly one episode ago, Claire was like, oh, I forgot the first rule. Don't get drunk and fucking lose your mind when you're in a dangerous situation. And then she just got tanked. But
Rhenish.
It's very charming.
It's that Rhenish.
There's that whole like, well, why didn't you take the bandage off yourself? And he says, oh, I was afraid you'd scalp me for it, or whatever the fuck he says. And she says, yes, I'm the healer. I'm in charge. And it's very cute. I don't know why I sounded like Mary Poppins just then.
Well, it's very cute.
For every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. You find the fun, and it is underneath Jamie's kilt.
So Claire's just finally figuring the fun out here.
Yeah.
So she's drunk and she can't really help herself. I mean, like we said, who could? And
It's very
super
charming.
flirty and it's cute. And you know that she hasn't given up the goat on Frank yet.
Well,
but
because she
like,
keeps talking about what a wonderful man he is, and she misses him so much. But like, yeah.
So then it flashes to the next morning, and Claire walks out of Castle Leoch, right? No, Castle Leoch, in the most incredible infinity scarf I've ever seen.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so chunky and big, and just like I wrap myself in it, and it's my life. And she walked out, and I was like, oh God, see that's what I was missing from Scotland. Your weird arm sleeves, like I get it, but
I love the arm sleeves.
but that infinity scarf, I'm like, I could take about 40 of those, please, Terry. Terry, you know where to send them. On Twitter, I'm at Julie Starby, and I live in Chicago, so why don't you just knit me about 10 of those motherfuckers? Okay, thanks, bye.
It's a great scarf. It's a great look. So she comes out. She's being trailed by Rugus, whichever one it is then. I think it's Rupert at that time.
It is.
Is it? Because he's pissed about Geillis? Or is it Angus who's pissed about Geillis? Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Whatever. Same.
They
Straight
get
white dude.
They get distinct personalities in season 2.
Yeah, later.
So she comes out. She doesn't explain where she's going. And all of a sudden, Geillis appears. And
Poof.
there was much rejoicing.
And everyone's like, yay!
It's come out, wherever you are.
And what it is she's wearing, Geillis is wearing something interesting here too. It's like
it's
poncho.
like a cape, like a fuzzy cape.
It's really cute.
It's great. Anyway, they go. It's also, you can see either like a blonde or a gray patch in her hair, especially in that scene. She just looks kind of unhinged. But they go out looking for berries and shit, and they're just like shooting the shit, talking the talk, whatever. And then Geillis happens to mention, oh, and we blew past this earlier, that part of the reason that Claire wasn't able to do the butt massage in the way that butt massage should be done is that Column's chambermaid is off work. Why? Because she's a lazy bones. Because her son died
Yesterday.
Yeah. So Mrs. Fitz, in her infinite wisdom, is like, oh, bless you, lass. You go home for about 2 hours.
And then come back and work some more.
No, she sends her home. They're very understanding. And apparently Scottish work ethic is, oh, what, did your kid die? No, I think I'll show up to work anyway.
So the kid, we find out in that earlier scene, had been playing at this place called the Black Kirk, which used to be an old abbey.
Like an abbey or something.
But it's all ruins now. You know, like one of those shitty castles where the kids go to take the pot.
He was taken ill. He took the pot, and then...
And see, she cracked her. I didn't even... I said it, she didn't laugh, and then she said it, she laughed. So this has happened before, and nobody's put it together because everybody thinks it's because demons hang out at the Black Kirk.
So Mrs. Fitz, in that scene earlier that we kind of blew by, also happens to introduce her nephew. Do you remember in that pilot where they drive past that rock that
the cock
you
rock?
just happen to learn all this shit about for no reason?
Yep.
Then this nephew is the cock rock of episode 3.
True.
So you just knew something bad's going to happen. And yeah, as it turns out, he also falls ill because he also went to the Black Kirk.
And got a demon, like you do.
And Claire and Geillis have this interesting conversation
While they're gathering their
where Claire's
Stevie
like,
Nicks herbs.
you can't really, Rhiannon, think that that he's really possessed by a demon. And Geillis gives her this interesting look and is like, well, she says, well, is he ill? She says, he's not ill. He's possessed. Claire's like, you can't really think that. And she says something to the effect of, the world thinks he's possessed and it is dangerous for me to say otherwise.
Right.
Because Geillis is sensible. That's what I'll say.
Well, sensible. Well, let's throw some air quotes on that shit.
But in some ways,
at least she understands that part of it.
She understands how the world works.
Right.
We'll say that. And Claire is like, well, fuck it. No, fuck it. I'm
gonna
see that continue to be a terrible time traveler.
I'm gonna go check on that kid.
Which is the noble thing to do.
Right.
And the stupid thing to do. So she goes, and she makes Angus go along with her, and he is not having it.
He doesn't even want to go in there because he thinks old Nick.
Isn't
that what they call the devil?
Old neck.
Is in there, so he's scared to even approach this house.
So she goes in, and this poor kid is tied down with ace bandages.
Yeah, he's lashed to the bed, and it's sad.
Bandages.
He's wan and white and just fucked
And Mrs.
up.
Fitz is there and obviously distraught, and Claire just starts doing her healing. Oh, she also has that line when Chuck Day goes, "A priest once told me my healing skills were a gift from God," and then she goes.
But the
priest does not share this opinion.
The priest shows up, and what did I call him? I called him Priesty McFuckface or something. You automatically know when he walks in.
But you know what? Because his name is Father Bane. Come on,
guys.
He was all. It was like it's like if you cast Clancy. What the fuck is his name? Clancy. Oh my God. No, actor in general. Just IMDb Clancy and see what comes up. God.
Clancy Brown?
Clancy Brown.
Oh, God.
Villain,
just
villain in everything.
Yeah.
Bad guy?
Yeah,
because this guy really...
If you for Shawshank Redemption, should we all...
He's...
that and guy. Carnival! Yes.
Also Daredevil.
Ooh, yes.
And in I'm sorry, this is a spoiler. If you have seen you know what? It's not a fucking spoiler because they cast Clancy Brown.
So that guy's a villain.
As a quote-unquote good guy. Gee, I wonder what happens.
Impossible.
Anyway.
He's just got that...
It's one of those situations where
evil face.
Sorry, just as a side note, apparently he's in SpongeBob SquarePants as a voice.
Oh, who does he voice? It's Squidward, isn't it?
He's Mr. Crab.
Mr. Crab!
We've learned so much. He's not on Outlander.
No, man. And doesn't Mr. Crab have an accent? Doesn't Mr. Crab have a yar pirate kind of thing?
Yeah.
Fucking A, man.
Maybe he should be on Outlander.
Super weird. Anyway,
you know what?
I'm here to play a villain.
I guarantee he probably got an audition for Frank Randall, but they were like, "No, wait, you can't be normal looking."
I think they pretty exclusively cast people from the British Isles. Is there an American on the show? I don't think there is. I mean, they had a chance to cast an American,
and then they
cast
didn't.
a British woman.
They
and
didn't
asked her
do
to
that.
an
Yeah.
American. Anyway, Clancy Brown.
Okay, sweet.
He's a great villain, but he's not on the show. So, point being that sometimes you do something with a character that there's just no way anyone is ever going to believe they're anything but a son of a bitch. And when you name your bald, pasty priest
with his weird dark circles under his eyes, because obviously he's not sleeping because he is awake thinking of ways to torture people,
especially women,
or little kids.
Yes,
it's clear.
But when you also name that guy Father Bane, there's just no way. Bane rhymes with Cain, bitch.
And Bane Capital.
Anyway, he shows up and is immediately like, "Who the fuck are you?"
And Claire's like, "Hey, I'm just trying to help." And he's like, "Get the fuck out, bitch." And then he starts just weirdly aggressively. Is this when he's doing the last right shit?
Yeah.
Aggressively throwing holy water in this kid's
terrifying.
face. And it's really awful. And I can't say that he's getting off on it, but he definitely is taking some sort of perverse pleasure in it.
I had two specific odd reactions. One is there's a shot in that scene that's great, but very out of Outlander world, and it's when they shoot from above the crucifix, and you can see like the edge of the crucifix on the wall and the kid's head beneath it, and it's a beautiful shot, but it's like not like any other shot in the whole show. It's so it's odd, striking but odd, and maybe that's intentional. Anyway, the other thing is I was rewatching the episode before we recorded, and I was watching on my phone while I was waiting for an Uber. That was a nightmare. But I'm waiting for my Uber, and I walked out of Wi-Fi range. And then all of a sudden, I look at my phone to continue watching, and I notice there are subtitles, and it's when the priest is speaking Latin. And I was like, oh, I don't remember there being subtitles. Did they subtitle the Latin? Weird. And I go to read it, and it says, like, whatever the fuck he's saying. And in my head, I went, no, streaming with Sprint data plan, no. Streaming with Sprint data plan. And I was like, what the fuck? Oh!
Yeah.
It's because I'm not on Wi-Fi anymore. But I was looking, I was like, no, streaming with Sprint data plan, no, streaming. And it was very strange. Anyway.
So we know that this guy
is the worst.
Is the worst and is going to be back.
Yes. So Claire, in her infinite wisdom, hightails it the fuck out of there.
Yeah, gotta go.
Gets back to the old Castle Leoch. And
she's in the kitchen doing something.
Well, so Angus tells her to wait so he can, I think, get alcohol. I mean,
maybe
they
get a
spend
beer or
most
something.
of
He's
their
just
time.
Drunk. Yeah.
Rupert and Angus spend a lot of time getting drunk in the kitchen when they're supposed to be watching Claire.
Because she's
pretending
hanging out in the
like
dungeon
they
most of the
can't
time,
help
right?
Claire because they're too busy watching her. Anyway, he tells her to stay put. And she stays put. She's thinking about how she can find a way to help this kid, and specifically voiceovers that she believes that Mrs. Fitz would let her take a look at him if they can find a way to do it when the priest isn't around, whatever. And she just glances to her right.
And there it is, a little slap and tickle in the corner.
A little pickle tickle.
A little pickle tickle.
No, the pickle's not both. Not yet.
But Jamie is totally making out with Larry.
Yeah, it's real moist looking.
And it's also like weirdly high school 70 Seconds in Heaven look like it's not hot, in other words. It's like two kids slobbering on each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Claire sees it and she's like, ho ho, Mr. McTavish. Hilarious.
Oh, ho ho, Mr. McTavish.
So she thinks it's funny, right? Because she's like, oh, there they go.
But she also gets like kind of an uncomfortable look on her face.
Yeah, because...
And we find out why later in the episode, but like she has kind of an odd thing.
So at dinner that night, does it fast forward to that? Because my next note is Footsie when she messes with him about Larry. She's like,
she
I
says,
see that
your
you were...
lips look swollen. Did a filly hit you in the face?
Yeah, because he works with the horses, get it? And also he was making out with a horse.
So like Philly, you get it. Mm-hmm. Oh God, Julie, it took me like 15 seconds to catch up to that joke. But he is basically just like very awkwardly tries to respond.
He's incredibly embarrassed.
Puts his foot on hers to like get her to stop talking, and she just keeps pushing it, and then she kicks him, and his beer goes everywhere. Also, Murtagh is sitting there, and he is like, "Oh, are you working with the Phillies now?"
Yeah, and then Jamie gets so upset and gets up and leaves, and then Murtagh's like, "Dude, Claire, you gotta stop it."
I wrote down, this is the moment that I fell in love with Murtagh.
Yes, agreed.
And it's, you know what? We don't do this often enough, given how often we talk about him on the show. But can we just, like, raise a glass to Duncan Lacroix, one of the MVPs of the entire fucking series?
It's true.
Pamplemousse.
And he's so good in this scene, and it's so brief. It's
just
also
a tiny
really
little
well
moment.
written. Who wrote this episode, Janine?
This episode was written by Anne Kenny.
And Kenny.
All right, Anne
Maybe
Kenny.
It might be Annie. A-N-N-E.
Anne.
Sorry.
Yeah, Anne Kenny.
I get nervous.
It's good. You want the name should be pronounced correctly.
But
Appreciate
Murtagh
it.
looks at Claire and goes, Jamie needs a woman.
Oh no, because first he says, if you're teasing Jamie about Leary, you should stop because he could get more than a swollen face. She's like, what, a wife? And he says, well, yes.
And he needs a woman, not a lassie.
Not a lassie. And Leary will be a girl until she's 50. And you know it. Mm-hmm. I've been around long enough to know that Jamie needs a woman, not a lassie. And Leary will be a girl until she's 50. And you know it. So, like, It's the first indication that we get. I mean, Murtagh's first moment where you're like, all right, is in the very first episode where he says, like, I don't know what she is, but I would put money on the fact that she's not a whore. Mm-hmm. Right? And then he lays low for a bit. But this is like, he not only knows what's going on, which I guarantee you Jamie has not talked to him about.
No way. No way.
Add to the list of things that Jamie is bad at, not kissing and telling.
Yes.
Like, he's a discreet gentleman. Like, he wouldn't have, right? Mm-hmm. And he obviously thinks he's hiding something from Murtagh, but Murtagh knows. Mm-hmm. So he's aware.
He's like,
on top of that,
can't marry that.
He knows that Jamie shouldn't marry Leary because he knows that Jamie needs, like, a grown-ass woman and not a little girl, has enough insight into this young woman to realize that she's going to be the way she is until she's a quote-unquote grown-ass woman, and that this basically complete stranger
knows
is
the difference.
Insightful enough to know the difference. Mm-hmm. And it's just, and he sells it so well, and so does Ketri Young. She also, like, you can see she looks a little ashamed of the way that she acted. It's just a great little scene. I know I already said that the Mrs. Fitz scene was my favorite scene in this episode, but it's not. It's this one. It's just really, really good.
And then I don't know how we jump to this, but I do know that Gilf says, hey, Claire.
Oh, it's because she goes outside to cry because she's ashamed. And she recognizes that she was teasing him because she's jealous.
Right.
Because she misses her husband so much.
And not because she wants to climb that redwood.
I mean, maybe both.
I mean,
maybe both.
Okay.
But she says it's because she misses her husband. So she was jealous of their intimacy, and she misses her husband. And so she's outside crying. Rupert is just standing there being like, I'm picking my fingernails. Weeping woman, I don't give a fuck. And then Gilf emerges. The man who invented golf.
Mm-hmm. And he says, hey, want to go into town? And she's like, what? And he's like, I figured I'd take you over to Geillis' house.
So you can stock up for the gathering.
So you can stock up.
I don't know if you've noticed, but the gathering is coming.
Yeah, let's keep talking about the gathering when it doesn't actually happen in this episode. But so he's like, I'll take you down there. You'll get some stuff for your supplies that you'll need when everybody in the Highlands is here.
So cut to them riding on horseback down.
Gilf looks so fucking good on a horse.
Yep.
This was the first time when I was just like, man.
It just makes me want to take a musket and shoot the beret right off his beautiful head.
There are some people who really look at home on a horse, and Graham McTavish is one of them.
Yep.
He's incredibly... it just looks really good. Just saying.
Julie just got a faraway look.
I'm just saying. He can ride a horse.
So if he's the man who invented golf, but he can ride a horse, does that make him the man who invented... croquet? What's the one where you're on horse?
Polo, dude.
Polo. I don't fucking care.
Okay.
Is he the man who invented polo? By Ralph Lauren?
You know what? I hope not, because that's a rich man's game, and I need him to stay a little bit like working class. If you know what I'm saying, for my fantasy life.
You know, but think. Pretty much all the good things that have been misappropriated by rich people started out for the poor.
Well, I mean, he's the one that plays the shinty. He's the one that plays the lawn hockey or whatever at the end. Yep. So, you know what? Maybe he invented golf and polo because it's just hitting tiny balls with big sticks.
That's what she said?
I don't know.
I don't know.
There was something there, but I think I missed it.
Yeah, it's whatever. The point being...
He looks really good on a horse.
And he probably has a great penis.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
So they're riding...
Yes.
A big stick. So they're riding horses through the town to get to Geillis's. So Arthur Duncan's, the fiscal, because she's the fiscal's wife. So they show up so she can stock up for the... I don't know if you know this, but the gathering is coming.
is coming.
Yeah. So they show up, and Geillis is wearing... if you're on Patreon... you may have already heard this. If not, we may eventually release it, but it might stay Patreon only. We did a live show at Wizard World like a month ago, where Julie and I get to list some of our favorite costumes. We will again be doing an episode that's costumes only, but we specifically got to talk about some of our favorite costumes. And my favorite fucking costume is the costume Geillis is wearing in this scene. It's a vest that Terry Dressbach calls the monkey fur vest. Monkey fur. And Geillis wears it backwards because Lottie Verbeek, who's a really good actress, also, like, they would give her costume pieces. She'd be like, oh, it's supposed to go this way? I'm going to wear it this way. And she'd put it on wrong because Geillis is odd. So she's wearing it backwards, and it's real furry and high-necked and strange looking. And then she finally sits down and puts her feet up, and she's wearing these teeny tiny red shoes. And it is the witchiest, most fabulous fucking thing. It's so good. Anyway, they're collecting herbs. They're talking about white willow bark, which we really could have used last weekend, and doing
They're
the whole
just straight
thing.
chilling, having lady chats.
And then all of a sudden they hear a commotion outside.
Lots of noise. And then you see the kid. Is the kid being pulled in? Yes, to be tried because he stole something. Some kid thieved something.
He's the fiscal, so he's in charge of money, which means he's also in charge of justice.
Yeah, like why does he get to
decide? Which seems to me
decide?
like a much more honest representation of what the justice system actually is.
Burn.
Yeah. Ooh, sick burn, America.
So Geillis' husband is the one that has to decide the punishment for
Played
this.
by who? Janine played by who?
What's
What's his name?
Yeah.
Was it John Sessions? Isn't he a racist old American dude?
Arthur Duncan, yeah. John Sessions.
Yeah, but isn't there also... No,
I wouldn't be fucking
He
surprised.
was born in large Scotland.
No, I'm saying I think there's also a famous racist American whose last name is Sessions, but I'm too drunk to remember. You look it up. We'll keep talking about...
So...
Oh, but I just wrote racist Sessions, and I just...
Please don't do that.
Don't
Please
do that.
don't do
Don't
that.
do
No,
that.
delete. Abort. So, again, Geillis' husband gets to decide what to do with this little teen tough who stole some gum from somewhere.
So Geillis mentions that Arthur is going to decide. And if he was feeling better, he might be lenient. But because he's likely costive, which means constipated, or flatulent, which means
farty.
Beautiful. I don't know. I was trying to do something. Real farty. It means real farty.
It means just
he
fucking
probably
gassy
won't.
as
And
fuck.
Claire is upset. And you can see Geillis is like, wait, do they not do things this way in Oxfordshire?
Sure. Yeah, where you're from.
Claire's like, no, it's different. She's like, oh, weird. Okay. And then Arthur Duncan comes in, and I swear to God, it's like they put a whoopee cushion underneath each of his shoes.
He's just walking in on a fart cloud.
Oh, my dear one. I need some peppermint. I need to evacuate my bowels. Oh.
But yeah,
and that is not, Janine.
No,
that
not
is not an
exaggeration.
exaggeration.
No, that's actually...
Not at all.
Oh, my dear.
So,
my
Geillis,
dear.
we see that Geillis, this hot piece, has found her way into being married to this gaseous, older windbag, pun fucking intended.
And he walks in to get his medicine. And Claire's like, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to be lenient without introducing herself? Which, like, Claire, I get that you're on a mission and also that you're a bad time traveler. But that's not time traveling skills. That's manners.
Yeah,
just
you're
say,
just
hello.
rude.
I'm Claire Beecham, up
And
from the castle.
I'm just
also,
a little
by the
nervous
way,
about this
can you
young
talk
man.
to me about this child?
Yeah.
And he gets real defensive. And then Lottie Verbeek, bless her, has this moment where Geillis, like, rolls her eyes so big and then turns right into, like, teeny tiny perfect wife.
Oh, yeah. And I thought to myself, this is how a real what is it? What is when a woman hates a man?
Misandrist?
Misandrist, thank you. This is like Misandrist 101. She's so good at it. She just knows how to work him.
She just goes like, oh, fuck, fine if it really matters to you. Oh, my dear, if our own union had been blessed with a child and he was convicted, would you... Blah, blah,
And she's just like heaving in his face.
And he
like,
just starts melting and he calls her dear heart. She goes, you are the one who's tender.
yeah, and she is really like just
Plays it on
playbook.
so
playbook.
thick. It's so thick.
It's hilarious. And Claire's
he
watching
gets
all
up
of
and
it.
starts farting again. He just farts his way back to the door. And at the end, she goes, oh, that was easy.
And just
Pretty
like,
much.
that's all you have to
She
do.
hits her button from Staples.
That was easy.
And so instead of being... Because the punishment was supposed to be he was getting his hand cut off. So instead of having his hand cut off, he gets however many lashes. They're going to call Blackjack Randall. He's going to moonlight. And then, not really. Oh, God.
No.
I just thought of all the other contextual reasons that's bad.
that's
anyway,
bad.
he's going to get like 2 lashes or whatever. And then he's going to have one ear pilloried.
And Claire doesn't know what that means. So she says, hey, Lottie Verbeek, what does pilloried mean?
And she gets this like, why the fuck fuck don't you know what that means? And it means they're gonna nail his ear to the pillory
In the
which
town
is where
square.
people get whipped.
So they're just going to take a big
So
ass
they bring
nail,
out this kid,
put it through the cartilage at the top of his ear, and nail it to a post.
and there's only one way to describe this kid who like doesn't have any lines. It's just he's just
a
sobbing,
scared kid,
right?
Yeah.
They get ready to nail his ear to this post, and the only way to describe what he's doing is 4 words. Claire Danes cry face.
Yes.
Ugly crying for the gods.
Yes, it's like he's got the entire plot on the wall in crayon.
It is something else. So he gets his ear knocked into the thing and he's screaming and it's horrifying.
And all these people are like clapping and making fun of him because people are fucking assholes.
so then, a couple hours later, they're still hanging out looking at herbs and shit.
they still have their lady chats.
And then a servant knocks on the door,
Oh.
and mild-mannered Geillis goes like, "What the fuck do you want?"
It's because she was right there.
She was trying to get information out of Claire because she can tell something.
She was like, tell me about your childhood.
Interesting childhood.
Yeah, because Claire says something about her childhood being interesting, or that she wandered a lot. And Geillis is like, that's my way in. And she's like, tell me about your interesting childhood. And then the servant walks in and Geillis is pissed. And then the servant is there to introduce Jamie. Jamie walks in. Geillis goes, hey, Miss Beecham was just about to tell us about her interesting childhood. Aren't you interested?
And she goes, I'm sure it's a good story.
Have some port.
Some port. And Jamie's like,
We got to get back up to the castle,
I'm not sure
yo.
I like you. We have to go. I brought you a cloak because he's considerate. Mm-hmm. Things Jamie is bad at. Forgetting your cloak.
Yeah. No, he's always going to have it.
He's really bad at forgetting your cloak. So he spirits Claire out of there. They leave, and the poor kid is still sobbing. He's Claire Danesing all over the pillory, and Claire's like, "Hey, you look like you have strong fingers."
What about that kid? Why don't you just go
But
pull that
hold
nail
on.
out?
You look like you have strong fingers.
We find out later he does.
Yeah. So they stage this little scene where Jamie, who is a very good actor, gets up on stage and because it's a stage and looks like he's taunting this kid, like he should just rip his ear off.
Because that's the whole thing, is that Jamie's like, all he has to do is rip it out.
And then he can go.
And then he can
you
go.
get the sense that Jamie would have done that shit hours ago.
Yeah, and maybe he already has when he was a kid.
Right. But no, his ears are beautiful.
You're right.
So they're perfect. So the kid is still sitting there, and Claire's like, well, you look like you have strong fingers. Cut to Jamie getting up there and taunting this kid and looking like he's about to rip the kid's ear off the pillory. And then Claire, and this is a moment as a book reader where I appreciate the show, because Ketchum Balfon is obviously very talented. Claire is a shitty actress. She gets better in season 2, but she's a shitty actress. And she goes like, oh! And then faints off this raised platform. And as she faints, Jamie rips the nail out of the ear. Mm-hmm. And they're leaving. And she says, thank you, I know that was a risk. And he says, oh, I couldn't have a wee Sassenach lassie be braver than me. She says, well, would you be willing to take another risk to help me again? And so then they go to
The Black Kirk.
the Black Kirk.
And he's talking all about how he and his kids, when he was a kid, he and his friends used to go up there and take the pot and do whatever. And that this is where the demons live, and it's very clear that this is where everybody gets possessed. And she's like, whatever.
And they're wandering around this garden, and it's a good scene because they're talking about their pasts, and she's obviously figuring out what's going on in this kid. And like 90% of my brain is following this good, well-written scene, well-acted scene, well-shot scene.
I'm kind of like,
and 10% of my brain is going, kiss, kiss.
But then he says something about wood garlic, and she goes, what do you mean wood garlic? And he goes, well, we would eat it. And she's like, okay, so there's where like this one? And he points at a leaf, and she's like, oh, that's not wood garlic. And she goes, did the monks who founded this abbey come from Germany? And Jamie's like, Germany? And she goes, Prussia! Did they come from Prussia?
Claire using words that Jamie doesn't understand will become a recurring theme. I cannot wait until episode like 9,
like
where we get
clitoris. That would be a good
Well,
one.
no, the
he'll understand it real quick.
No, my favorite word that Jamie doesn't understand is fucking.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's
we'll
right.
get there. Anyway.
But so she finds out that the monks who built this old abbey that's now in ruins came from Germany and brought Lily of the Valley with them. So this is some Walter White fucking bullshit. So Lily of the Valley is poisonous. And these kids have been going up there and eating these berries. So that's what's happening to Mrs. Fitzgibbon's nephew. So Claire's like, yeah! And she runs back down to the house, and this kid is just about to die. Like, he's right there, like, knock, knock, knock. That's death's door. I'm right there.
Like he's seen the blue fairy.
Yeah, he's ready.
He's so there.
And
He's
then,
ready. And you know what? The afterlife. It seems to me like being a child in Scotland might be kind of shitty. Mm-hmm. So did Claire rob him of a great experience?
I don't know.
Anyway, he's about to die.
And then the priest is there, and Claire comes in. She's like, get away. I know what it is. I know what it is. And the priest won't let her touch him. And then she looks at Mrs. Fitzgibbons, and she's like, dude, I know what this is. Do you want me to help your kid or not? And Mrs. Fitzgibbons tells him to get out, tells the priest to get out. And he is, like, really mad about it. But she's like, this is my father's fucking house. Get out. And the priest leaves.
And Claire has this moment where she acknowledges that, like, what she's doing to this child is either going to save him or kill him.
Because she doesn't know how to administer the dosage of the chemical antidote she has. It's some other herb that counteracts the Lily of the Valley thing.
Yeah.
But she can't, there's no way for her to tell whether or not she's dosing him right. So then she gives it to him. There's a tense moment. And then he, like, wakes up and he's alive. And Mrs. Fitzgibbons is like, holy shit.
And you know what, Claire? That would have been a great time to mention that you were from the future.
I am from the future.
Wait,
That's how I knew this.
I just saved your kid. Can we please talk
It's
about
because
how I'm from the future?
It's because I watched Breaking Bad and I knew how that
I know
happened.
how it works. I know how it works. Please, just someone believe me.
Yeah.
Instead, she just goes back to Castle Leac for the party.
Yeah.
And what happens at that party,
Oh, wait.
Julie?
The priest on his way out does have a great line that I really liked, which was, I smell the vapors of hell on you.
Gee, I
It's
wonder
like, you
if
know
he's
what?
going to come back.
I smell your shitty breath, Priesty McFuckface. Get out of here.
Father Bane.
Father Bane. What else do I have?
So they go to the
They
party.
start calling her the miracle worker, and I'm like, water. But that was just me. I don't know if anybody else said it.
There was a hand gesture associated with that. I'm going to go ahead and let you folks at home guess what it was.
I think you all know. Patty Duke knows. R.I.P.
Oh, God, did Patty Duke die?
Yeah, she died this year.
Oh.
2016's been rough.
Yes, rest in peace, Patty Duke.
So they go back, and there's another Harpy guy performance. He's still there. Fucking, you know why? Because the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald is always playing somewhere.
Well, also because if you're going to travel like 96 days to get 2 miles or however the fuck it long it takes them to get from place to place, you may as well stay for a while. So there's another Harpy McSingerson
And
concert.
he starts singing, and literally this song sounds exactly like the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. But
this time she understands the words.
Well, Jamie is interpreting them. Remember, he's telling
translating.
her.
So
Right. There's a woman. What does she do?
it's a song that the woman sings. She's mourning. They hear it from the Stones that she went back in time and was lost, and her family mourned her, and then she went back, and it's very sad. It's a sad story, but you can see Claire being like, "No, seriously, the fuck."
Except she skips over the part in her mind where he says to her, she lives in the past for a time, and strangers become friends and lovers. And she just like, boop, that just goes over her head.
Yep.
Like, oh, I can get back, never mind anything else. As opposed to the fact that I could be trapped here for years. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she gets it in her head that this means that there is a way to get back. She can
I
go
gotta
back
go
through
to
the
those
Stones.
rocks. I gotta get
to
Dick
the
Rocks.
Dick Rock. So that it ends with her being like, I gotta go! And that's it. And we get some like aggressive adventure music.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. And then this one in the after the show thing, they did say that this particular episode was not at all not very much related to the book. Like Father Bane was introduced in a completely different way, and so
Yes.
this was a very adaptive episode for television.
And a good one, I think. Mm-hmm. So let's do our scale, Julie, and then we'll do our little spoiler section.
Okay.
So I like this episode quite a lot.
It was okay. To me, it's like gathering.
Well, like I was saying, it does feel like a play setting episode, except for
it's
everything
setting-
that happens is interesting.
It's setting a lot of stuff up. It's setting up the relationship with Father Bane. It's starting to like give you a little bit more titillation about Jamie and Claire. Like there's stuff happening, but
I
it
want
also
to say
feels a
one
little
thing
filler.
about Jamie and Claire. Julie and I are not going to go into specifics of what may or may not happen with Jamie and Claire in any way, but we both feel, and even Janine, who hasn't seen the show, feels that it is obvious enough from the promotional materials and from the way the story is being told that he is being set up as a love interest, that we do not have to be coy about the fact that there is a Jamie Claire romance situation in the works. So we're not going to be. We're just not going to be. Because it's not like
It's obvious.
If you've ever watched a television show, then you know that that's a thing that's going to happen.
Have you ever watched
eventually.
Moonlighting?
Have you even seen Murphy Brown?
Have you ever watched Moonlighting, bro?
So anyway, we do not consider the fact that there's prospective Jamie Claire romance a spoiler. Anyway, so scales. So as always, our metrics are not planned. So we'll start with the doing it scale.
Still not so good. I mean, we get to see.
Well, we get sexual tension, but let me give you the parameters.
Okay.
Let's do
Just like,
let's do Cubs Bartman era
okay.
and Cubs Jake Arrieta era.
Ooh.
I don't care about the Cubs, but we live in Chicago, so go Cubs, I guess. Please don't riot and burn down Lakeview.
Well, I'm going to tell you that I don't know enough about the Cubs roster during the Bartman time, because Bartman was the guy that caught the foul ball that like fucked them. He wasn't actually a player. But I don't know enough about their roster, but that was kind of back when baseball players were fat and gross. Arrieta is not fat or gross.
He's a very good looking man.
And he does Pilates.
You know what? Somebody needs to give that man a kilt.
Woof.
Should we maybe our listeners can help us.
Yeah, if you want to crowdsource a kilt for Jake Arrieta, like a victory kilt, a Cubs victory kilt.
Yeah, and it'll be white, red, and blue.
Yeah, clearly.
Yes, in the Cubs tartan. I don't know if you can find that, but I bet
Anyway.
you can.
So where is it on that scale?
Well, it's definitely not.
You can use your own sports metrics, and Julie, I know exactly what sports metric you use.
Okay. Well, I mean, the teasing of will they, won't they. This is depressing, but I'm going to say it. Rex Grossman Bears.
Oh.
They made it all the way to the motherfucking Super Bowl that year, and they shouldn't have, and it was luck. And then they got destroyed by Un Petit Manning.
Un petit Manning.
Un Petit Manning. Not even Le Grand Manning. Un Petit Manning.
This is a very specific me and Julie joke where we call Eli Manning Un Petit Manning, and we call Peyton Manning Un Grand Manning. But we could also call Peyton Manning Un Cash Grab Manning because of his fucking, I'm going to go home and drink a Budweiser.
Well, I mean, Eli's done his fair share of commercials too, but anyway, he did destroy Rex
No, but
Grossman.
in his speech when he was the fucking MVP of the Super Bowl, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Chicken parm, you taste so good.
What? You guys are, by the way.
Have you not heard that?
I am not.
That's a
sports
Peyton
person
Manning joke.
whatsoever,
That's a
so
Peyton
it's
Manning
just
joke.
all-
Chicken parm, you taste
Tastes
so
so good. What's the one that he does when he's mowing the lawn? I don't know, but there's
The only other one
He's
I remember
really good
is
in a
I
commercial.
just love that new car smell.
He's just really good in commercials, though. Like Peyton Manning is really.
They're nationwide commercials because he sings the nationwide is on your side.
Why
But
is
with
he-
different
It
words.
sounds like he's the Matt Damon of those.
Oh no, that's too high of praise.
You mean
Matt Damon from Team America?
Team like Mike Damon?
I gotcha. Yeah.
Mike Damon.
Okay. Anyway, moving on. Okay. Janine is giving us the sign that we are going too long.
We're going too long. All right, so Rex Grossman Bears, go.
All right. So costume scale from. I know we're talking about outerwear, so I'm gonna try to go outerwear from While You Were Sleeping, where Sandra Bullock has a
fingerless gloves and
The whole thing.
She cold all the time.
To, let's say, I just heard you swallow in the mic. It was excellent.
Delicious.
To the 90s remake of Miracle on 34th Street with Mara Wilson. Oh, God.
God, that's so weird that you brought that up because that
She
movie
has a
was in my
little
mind
muff.
earlier today.
She's got a little cute cap. It's coordinated. Also, apparently, I'm sorry, again, not sponsored, but Mara Wilson just wrote a book called Where Am I Now?
I read
That
about
is
that.
apparently excellent. So read that book.
I need to go with something that has excellent warm outerwear in it.
Okay.
This one's hard. Something that's the Highlander. Doy.
Do I? Okay.
Doy.
I'm not ranking this week because we're running short on time, and also I agree with Julie. All right, so ability to get up and get another beer.
Oh.
Let's go. Okay. God, I always say speed. Here's what I learned when I re-listen. I always say speed like it's the first time I've said speed.
But speed is like a high watermark because you know that you got to go 55 miles an hour or it's over.
All right, let's do this. On the low end, let's say the Gwyneth Paltrow version of Emma.
Ugh.
And on the high end, the 4th chapter of 6 of the BBC Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, where she goes to Pemberley.
It's where they have the fight.
Oh, where he asks her to marry him and she's
Yes.
like, "Fuck you."
Where he asks her to marry him by saying like, by
You're-
the way, everything
you're
about
dumb.
you is disgusting,
And your parents don't have
but
any
I
money.
love you.
Oh, God damn it.
So very gripping, right? So
Okay.
Emma, Gwyneth Paltrow, Emma, to 4th episode BBC Pride and Prejudice.
I'm actually going to go straight Pride and Prejudice on this. And I'm going to go BBC because it's the only one. And I'm going to say, like, 2nd episode. Because I could get up whenever I wanted. Really?
I think 2nd episode is the one where she walks through the mud because Jane is sick, right?
No, that's later.
No, I think that's 2.
When she has to go hang out with Caroline and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
All right, then maybe we'll back it up to 3 when it's just bullshit setting up for the ball or whatever, and it's kind of boring.
No, again, I think that's 2.
Okay, then I'll stay with 2, because you do have really great scenes like Geillis sniffing around and stuff, but you also have long periods of time that are kind of filler and like meh. So Pride and
But it's good.
Prejudice,
It's a
BBC episode 2.
And here's the thing about that BBC Pride and Prejudice. I cannot imagine there is a single person that's not Kevin Lambert that's listening to us right now
That has not
seen it. But if you haven't, you should really watch it because then you're just going to remember all the reasons that Colin Firth is so fuckable.
He's so good.
Anyway, and also everyone in the cast is great. But so here's how it works now. We're going to read our list of Patreon patrons because they are our Patreon patrons. I have to flip back past all of my Bridget Jones's baby notes, past my League of Their Own notes. Anyway, so we need to thank Amanda Newton, Beth Locke, and Kathleen Moniz, who support us through Patreon, as well as all of our other Patreon patrons who are giving it lower amounts, which are still incredibly valuable.
We can't believe it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. We got some new ones in the last 2 days that I haven't added to the list yet, so we'll do that in the next episode, and we'll there's still lower amounts, but we want to make sure that we thank you by name, so thank you, and we'll do that next episode. We want to thank you. We want to thank our not sponsors because we paid for the beer ourselves of this week. Although one of them, we got off a punch card. I guess that's the next episode. We'll do that next time.
Yeah.
In a way, that's free.
It's kind of free.
Anyway,
2 for 1.
Empirical Brewery, brewing for the science of beer, whatever the fuck the thing is. And it was an IPA.
Exploring the science of
Science
beer.
What IPA was it? Infinity IPA. It's delicious.
Which they bottle in the 6-pack, so you can definitely in Chicago. You can
Infinity
buy
IPA.
Infinity
it's a
IPA is
delicious
very
beer.
good. And we did, this episode was 1 growler.
Yep.
Good on us.
for
And thanks for listening. Thanks for reviewing. Thanks for commenting on the blog. Thanks
You
for
guys.
all the things.
You guys, psst, psst, I'm going to take you to the side away from Allison for just a second. We love it when you review us. Like, it really, makes our day. Like, when we read your reviews, we laugh, and we're like, people listen to our show, and they like it, so please leave a review.
Julie, what are you saying about me?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I fugue state.
Okay. Anyway, we love you. Thank you so much for listening. We're going to play like 15 seconds of yakety sax and be right back to talk about some spoilery things. So if you are watching the show for the first time and you do not want to be tipped off to things that happen in the future, it's a brief segment.
Or the past. Ooh. You guys, that was fucking deep.
You can stop listening and your enjoyment will not be lessened. However, if you have either seen the show or read the books and you want to listen on, we'll have a very brief conversation about a specific aspect of this show, the enjoyment of which is heightened if you've already seen it. Anyway, so here comes Yakety Sax, and if you're leaving us now, we will see you next week. Thank you for listening to Podlander Drunkcast and Outlander Podcast. Welcome to Spoiler Romania. We've had no suggestions on Twitter,
You went with that. It's cool. It's cool.
Spoy toner tonaton learner. We're at the end of every episode when we're talking about season 1. We talk about one thing that will not mean the same thing if you haven't watched either to the end of the season or to season 2. And in this case, what we want to talk about is all the shit that Geillis does where she's trying to figure out Claire's fucking deal. And you can tell if you're listening to this, you have agreed to be spoiled or you already know. So Geillis is from the fucking future. So Geillis is trying to figure out, is she a time traveler or is she just nuts? Like, what the fuck is her deal?
Is she a witch?
Is she a witch? And it's great to watch her ask all of these questions. And I think it really starts in the episode previous, but this is the one where you really notice
She's totally fishing.
So this is a place where our unique perspective comes in handy. Because, as you know, if you've been listening to the show, I've read all the books, including both of the Outlandish companions, including the one that's basically just floor plans.
Supplemental materials.
Whereas Julie hasn't read any of them.
Nope.
So...
And never will.
Well... Here, you know what? I challenge you on that. If the show gets canceled, you won't find out how the story ends.
Oy vey. That'll be rough.
Yeah, you will. I mean, the show's not going to get canceled. But let's say after season 4, they discontinue the show. You're really not going to find out how it ends?
I bet they won't, though, man.
But if it does, you're really not going to find out how it ends? Of course you will. Because you know what? The sex is better in the books because you get to imagine it.
That's what my aunt says.
Well, your aunt and I are lockstep on this one issue, and based on my knowledge of your aunt, no others.
True.
Anyway, so in this case, I thought this would be useful. Julie, when you were watching season 1 of Outlander
for the first time,
did you have any idea Geillis in the future?
No, I thought she was a witch. I thought that she was actively trying to figure out if Claire was Ken. You know, I thought that she was just a fucking weirdo.
So
at this point.
So when did that change for you?
Well,
when she says 1968,
it changed.
Again, Spoilerville.
Yeah, it changed in the Witch's Trail episode. Yes.
Before she actually says it or not?
I think a little bit before, because aren't they trapped in the mud pit? Yeah, I think that there was a little bit.
Quotes
Churchill. I think.
Is it Churchill?
I think it's Churchill, and I was like, huh?
I regret that I only have one life to give for my country. Who the fuck is that?
It's Winston
Janine?
Churchill.
That is Churchill.
Yeah. And I remember going, huh? Oh, well, that makes a lot of fucking sense, you know.
Yeah.
And then when she...
And you can see her go, Mer?
And you see Claire be like, what? Because she actually heard that Winston Churchill quote, like yesterday.
Oh, sorry. I only regret that I have one life to lose for my country is actually
Nathan Hale.
Yeah, American Revolutionary.
Damn, I suck. Well, that's because really you can attribute any quote to Winston Churchill, and 90 times out of 100, you're right.
Which, by the way...
Near or far, wherever you are, I know that my heart will go on. Winston Churchill.
Winston Churchill.
Which, by the way, Nathan Hale was 1755 to 1776.
But still after when they are right now, because it's 1743. So,
Noted.
Claire...
Also, they're both from the future.
You tried to eat a chip.
I wouldn't have got one of those chips.
But yeah, so I would say at this point in my first watch of the show, I did not know that Geillis was from the future. I just thought she was either a witch or like a woman who lived in this time while trying to actually live.
So in rewatching it, what's
Yeah.
your experience in rewatching it? Is it more obvious?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because that's my experience in watching it the first time. Is you can see Geillis, and it's
Fishing,
not
just fishing.
It's not quite so obvious in the books. I'm not gonna lie. Geillis, like, clearly senses it, but is not so actively trying to like test it out.
Yeah, because Lottie Verbeek is fishing.
And that's part of one of the great things about TV is you can see somebody thinking. Like you can't see someone think in a book, which is actors. They're wonderful. So you can see her being like, "What the fuck is your deal?"
Yeah. Wait a minute. Are you from as late as I am?
So like,
You're not from as late as I am.
We're
Like,
gonna get to the point where we're gonna be able to say like, "Oh no, you're a fucking psychopath."
yeah.
But at this point, I just want to raise a glass to Geillis Duncan as being an excellent fucking time traveler.
Yeah. You know what? She's made it this far.
Yeah, Claire, not a very good time traveler.
But you know what? Spoilers. No spoilers because you're still listening. Geillis had the time to fucking like prepare for it and think about it. Claire had no time to prepare and think about it.
Sure, that's true.
So Geillis had actually thought about these things like, oh, well, when I get there, I should obviously find a husband right away.
I need to make sure I'm wearing appropriate undergarments.
And I need him to have a certain amount of money. And I need to, establish myself as a healer.
I need to find a way to save some money for Bonnie Prince Charlie, who is also a douchebagger.
So yeah, no, I would say I did not know, but on a rewatch, it's pretty clear.
I'm also curious. I know a lot. In fact, I'm going to say the vast majority of you listening, based on the conversations that we have on Twitter and Facebook, etc., are people who are listening again, right? So if you're listening again, or not listening again, watching again and listening with us, if you've already listened to the show and you've seen season 2 and all of this shit, please, on Facebook or on Twitter, find us and tell us when you fucking figured out that Geillis was from the goddamn future. Would you please try to tag it as a spoiler just for the people who aren't caught up yet? But I want to know who else saw it coming, if anyone. Because when I was reading the book, I didn't see it coming.
Usually this is my superpower, and Allison will tell you that it's my superpower.
True. Julie can guess anything in any movie.
I predict things that happen like 5 minutes after I predict them. And I do it all the time with a certain amount of glee, which sucks because it's something that my mother does that drives me crazy. I'm just better at it.
I didn't see The Sixth Sense with Julie, but here's my very brief reenactment of Julie watching The Sixth Sense. Opening credits play, Bruce Willis is dead.
No, this is actual real.
Okay.
Usual Suspects. A friend of mine was so excited to get me to watch it at his house on video after it had been in the theaters. Movie starts, they're on the boat. You see Kaiser Sose from the waist down smoking a cigarette. Then it flashes to the police station, and Kevin Spacey is there and asks for a cigarette. And I'm like, he's Kaiser Sose. And my friend was like, what the fuck? And I was like, it's the way he holds a cigarette. He's holding a cigarette the same way the guy was on the boat. It's the same guy. And John's like, fuck you.
Anyway, on the internet, find us, tell us when you decided Geillis was from the future. Please tag it as a spoiler. Janine already knew this because the one episode of season 2 that Janine watched was Red Tights episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Janine already knew this, but he still seems moderately surprised.
Yeah.
I think what I'm intrigued to find out about is, and this is a season 3 question, is the rules of that time travel-esque kind of things, which I think will be semi-addressed. But I'm intrigued by that concept.
It's very ooky spooky.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the actual end of the episode. I'm Allison.
I'm Julie.
That's Janine.
What up?
We're going to record another episode in like 2.5 minutes after we eat some chips and Janine pees, and then I also pee. But for the rest of you who aren't us, we will see you in a week. Thanks for listening, review, Patreon, all the shit. You're the best. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
Bye.